Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Founders Table podcast. I'm your host, DeShaun Williams, and today we have Miss De Deniza Robinson on the show. And a little bit about Miss Deniza. She is the founder and CEO of Aevlys AI and a part-time student at York University. And I could go on and on about what she's given me for the bio, but I would definitely love for Miss Robinson to definitely tell us a little bit about herself. So without further ado, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good. Thank you so much for asking.
You're welcome. And um, you know, I know that we kind of connected to the next top speaker um Facebook group when I did my call for speakers, and I didn't expect to get so many people to show interest, and definitely I'm grateful to have you on. And one of my first questions is, we've mentioned Avalist AI in your bio. What exactly is Avalist AI? Who does it help, and how does it help in those manners?
Of course, Aevlys doesn't really have its true meaning, I would say. It's just a make-up name that comes from Latin of analyzing, I would say. But who is it for? It's usually for founders from the small companies to middle companies that specialize in SaaS, tech, and AI that are struggling with pitching, I would say. And I would say founders that actually try to sell their product to North America. So our product will help people from different countries.
Okay. So, and if I remember correctly, you are in Canada, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know, Canada is on top of the United States, but it's not part of the United States, even though someone wants to make it the 51st state, but we're not going to go into that. Um, and I definitely love how you stated like it doesn't like the name really doesn't mean like it's its own thing, but it comes from analyzing. And when it comes to that name, I'm truly curious. How did you come about having that name?
Honestly, that's actually a very good question. I when I decided to register my business, I've been researching a lot and a lot about certain names that do not exist, and I was thinking, what can I name my business and why? Then I remember one day I was I was resting and in my mind a name came to me and it said analyzing but in Latin. I understood, oh, okay, that's I can try. I also did research what is be analyzing in Latin, and I found similar name, which I called it Avlis, I would say. And then I checked every domain, and this name doesn't exist yet, so I decided to name it. So it's all about ima- creativity names, I would say.
And you finding a name that doesn't have a domain, and not having to compete with someone that has a similar name, it's definitely it's definitely good because now you've been able to make yourself stand out from the rest of the people that may be doing something similar to you. And Avulus is gonna it's definitely gonna stand out. It's gonna People are gonna remember it because it's gonna be like it's, with me, I was trying to figure out how to, and the one way for me to remember it was, it kind of rhymes with fabulous, and I was like, okay, there we go. But people are definitely gonna remember it. Um, and so, what was the defining moment that changed the direction of your entrepreneur journey?
Mm. Mhm. So what is so you, if I may ask, you're referring to what is the moment that made me to choose entrepreneurship, right? What that
Yeah,
just to
so what ultimately made you decide, hey, this is something that I want to do?
Oh, okay. Of course. When I entered university, I was very new to career and I pursued mathematics, but wasn't aware of what I want to do. And for 9 years, being at university, I actually couldn't really figure out what I'm good at or what I want to do. I've been applying to different industry jobs from insurance, from risk management, from statistician, even my field, but data analytics, but I always got rejected until one day I was passing by the hallway at university and I saw two people sitting in the table and promoting the club, their club called um, Entrepreneurship Development Association. And from there, I got curious and I came to them and asked, "What is entrepreneurship?" I asked them. They gave me answer. Then I actually got curious even more. What events are they promoting? And decided to attend one. The moment I attended to one of the events, I felt really passionate about the meaning of entrepreneurship, the people that are in the stage. And I said to myself, wow, that energy, that's something I want to do in life. If and also I realized something that if people do not want to give me an opportunity, I should never ask for people's approval to show that I'm better than why I'm the best fit for them. And instead I said, I will create my own startup, my own company, and hire people at the end. That's how the journey even started from there. And then for 2 years, I was attending events, learning before even registering a business.
And and definitely so a few things that you hit on was like the approval of people. And I think honestly, I think a lot of times people don't get started because they feel like they need that approval from others. And they're gonna constantly chase that approval. You, on the other hand, was like, I don't need this approval. I know what I want to do now, and I know what I need to do. And you decided to go out and not only educate yourself about it, but before you even launched your business, you had the idea, you had everything that you needed, and you was like, okay, before I do this, I want to continue going to the events so that I know that I'm doing this correctly, and so that I know that I I can just like pitch this idea to people when it like, hey, this is what I wanted, this is what I'm thinking of doing, and like and being able to see their interest level in it. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of fall at now because there's like, okay, I need the approval of people before I do this. I'm just going to go out and do it. Whereas they don't have an idea and plan, they don't have a structure and plan, so to speak, and they don't know who they're going to be helping. You, on the other hand, you knew exactly what you was going to be doing, who you was going to help, how it was going to help, and continue to go to these events um, and meet new people, but also understand like the entrepreneur journey, then how to develop yourself and your business to the entrepreneur path. And so, that's amazing because not a lot of people look at it that way and it's like, oh, we're just gonna go ahead and launch and we'll hope for the best. And you know, so with that, one of my questions, one of my next questions is gonna be, okay, so you've got the business started, you've you've been going to these events for 2 years. You finally got the business registered. You're starting it. What what was one of the biggest challenges that you have faced in your business?
Thank you for asking that question. I believe one of the biggest challenges that I'm facing, but I faced before even bigger, is that when I started to do business right away, right after registering, I didn't know anything about business actually because you can understand the theories, yes, in going to events, but it's actually way different to do things rather than theories. First of all, I didn't know who would be my market. I also didn't know what was my, I would say, ikigai, like passion and what the world needs. And another thing, I didn't know what is MVP prototype. So what I've done is I've been doing lots of research. What kind of product do I want to do or solve, or I mean sell to people that would actually make some income? And I had one idea, which is like emotional safety engine and for manipulations. But the challenge, the main I realize is that when I hired the volunteers to help me build it, I wasn't aware of how to lead the team, how to provide the roadmap. I didn't have any direction. And that's why I failed the first time when I when I started. But after a couple of months taking a huge break, I attended more events and I actually felt in love again with startup and wanted to give it myself a second chance to try it again. And the biggest challenge right now I'm facing, even right now, is actually do lots of research in terms of I already have a clear market, but searching for the right people to actually test your MVP and being in the alpha stage is the challenge. LinkedIn cold outreaches and also attending personal events and speaking to people, I always have to include my why. Why am I doing this? That way, people will be more trusted in my service and why I want to help. So these are the main challenges, I would say. But at least I'm not hitting any wall right now. I have the direction.
That that's fantastic. And I like how you went back and was like, actually, I didn't know I didn't know who my market was because, a lot of people be like, oh yeah, I knew right off the jump who my market was and what I was going to do. And you mentioned like, hey, I failed the first time around and I went back to these events and, being able to just mention that and just to say that it makes you, I would say that this makes you a lot stronger than what most new entrepreneurs would do because, you know, it's not like I wouldn't say that you failed, but ultimately you kind of got stuck where you in an area where you felt like you needed to be successful. And instead of saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna give up and I'm not gonna do this anymore," I'm gonna go back and research. I'm gonna continue doing research. I'm gonna continue doing everything I need to do to be successful. But also, I'm gonna start back going to these events so I understand what it's like and what it truly means to run a business. As you stated, the theory of running a business, you can run with it all day. You can run with a theory. But when it comes to can you put that theory, can you implement that theory and put it into play? And that's where the challenges come. And, me as an entrepreneur, you as a business owner, well, I say entrepreneur, but I'm a business owner as well. So both of us as business owners, we've seen what it's been like to take. the theory of running a business and trying to put it into play and seeing like, oh, this piece of the puzzle don't fit, or where does this piece of the puzzle supposed to go? And now you're just trying to figure out, oh, well, maybe I need to step back just a little bit so that I can get this roadmap to where I want to be in my business and so that I can be successful. So I know who my market is. And the fact that you stated that you are still working on this and that you are still like the hardest part is understanding who your market is and how to get them to test this product. Because we live in a time where we're so like where people are so skeptic now of wanting to test something because they're always like, oh, how like what am I gonna get out of it? It's always about what can they gain from it. And that's as business owners, I feel like that's something that we had to understand. But also you had to understand your why. Why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? And that why, when you understand your why, I think you can agree. I think you'll agree with this. It that why is it's ultimately the fire under you that keeps you going. Um, and so my next question is gonna be, um, and you kind of already hit on it, but what is one of the hardest decisions that you've had to make um, as a business owner that helped shape your your business now?
Thank you for asking that question. And yes, before I answer, I agree with you. Your why will always help you to find the answers and move forward. But to answer your question is, I would say the biggest challenge was, and the decision that I've made is I said no to the wrong opportunity. I trust my intuition really deeply, and I protected my equity. I'll give you an example. For example, I used to have a mentor who was a business analyst, and he was understood business better, way better than me. But he told me, if you want to, but in order for me to get something like financial, well, make a financial decision for me to get out of it something, for you to be mentor, I need you to hire the entire team, I would say, of people that I know, engineers, to build right away the product and make a beta testers and then start selling to the B2B, to the companies, I would say. My intuition, on the other hand, said, no, you do not do this. There'll be really bad risks. The bad risks would be that you would need to share equity in the company with everyone because right now you're not making any money, not payment. And at the end, the company won't make anything and you can lose business. So, by being strategic and analyzing each risk, whether it's a good or bad, I made a difficult decision to say no and choose the longest path. Is the hardest way to have alpha testers, to build MVP, interview many people, then beta testers, then sell the product to actual people. And even though I made a decision not to go to investors either for now, because there will be a lot of expectation and pressure, where you can actually use existing tools. Depends what you're building, but in technology, you can use existing tools that already in the internet, and you can build it and start selling it. And if you want to build something newest, then you can go in the future to investors with the strongest traction. So I would say that's the biggest decision I ever made. And I wanted to say that I learned the hardest way that there is a difference to different risks. Either a good risk you can take in business, but also there is bad risks that you should avoid because it will put a lot of risk in the company that won't able to grow. So that's really it, I would say.
That's amazing because a lot of you you had an opportunity. You and instead of you saying, yeah, I'll like this doesn't feel right, but this opportunity can open up doors, so I'll do it anyway. You decided it was like, no, this this isn't the path for me. And you mentioned like you took you took the long path. You took what you call the hard path. And you know, I never I wouldn't say it's the hard path or the long path. I would say it was the path that you were meant to take because what would have happened if you would have said yes to that opportunity, you didn't like it, and it didn't, and you really didn't learn what you needed to from it. So, you know, a lot of times, w- even in business, we get no's, but we have to understand that sometimes we have to say no to opportunities as well because it doesn't align with us. It doesn't, or it just doesn't feel right for us. That intuition is like, yeah, I know it's there. I know that it can propel us, but maybe this isn't it. And, also you mentioned investors and how you're not going after investors right now. And one thing I definitely want to say to all the people that's listening to the show and that's going to be listening to the show, when you're starting up a business and you think, oh, I'm going to go to an investor, a lot of investors want to know what are they investing in and why should they invest in it and what are they going to get back? How are they going to get their money back? How are they going to make it back? And are they going to make that money and then some back? So, you saying, hey, I'm not going after investors right now. It's like that door is still open, but it's not a focus right now because you know where you need to be at and you know where you want to go. So, um, and then my final question for you today is, what is one mistake that you see a lot of um, maybe business owners or just people in general that have an idea behind a business? What is one mistake that you make that you see a lot of people make that should be, and how should it be corrected?
That's a very good question, honestly. And the biggest mistake that I see many entrepreneur people start, entrepreneurs especially, is that they choose business without having a true reason why. That's why they don't have it. And for example, I've seen certain people answer when the judges ask them, why did you choose the business to do in the competitions actuals? And some people answered was, because we're the best and we go to the best school. Okay, that's a good answer, but there should be a reason why. I see many posts on LinkedIn. I see many things like we, after doing certain researches, we found this is the target market and we want to help those target market. Okay, that's good. But there should be always why, because at the end, you may go successful at the beginning, but eventually you'll hit a wall that where only your why can only, and how you're gonna do it, why and how will help you to move forward. And I'm saying it from my own experience because I was more in love with the product rather than with the problem itself. What am I even solving? So that's the biggest mistake I see people make. And I suggest before even entering to entrepreneurship, always ask yourself, what am I passionate and what the world needs? What is the biggest problem and how does it aligns with me? Or maybe something there has been in your life, something that shaped you, that influenced you in a positive way. That's my suggestion to others.
That's a very great suggestion, and I kind of chuckled when you said that they answered because we're the best and we go to the best school. You know, um, we're not saying that you aren't the best. We're not saying that you're not going to the best school, but what we are saying is when you start up a business, and for the people listening, when you start up a business and people come to you and you start getting on stages and whatnot, and they're asking you, why should I choose you? I'm the best and I went to the best school. Probably, you're probably not going to close that sale based off that because now you've just taken the focus off the person that's asking you and put it back on yourself. And a lot of people don't, when they're coming to you about your service and why they should choose you, they're trying to figure out how you can help them. Um, so that was definitely a great point that you made of, you know, definitely, and also having that why and that how. But as you said, you were in love with the product, and that's a great thing. But we also have to be in love with the problem because in it, like our product, we have to love our product, but we also have to love the problem as well because the product solves the problem, but without the problem, there is no product. And that was a great point that you made as well. So um, the final question I have for you today is, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do so?
Honestly, the best way to get contact with me is on LinkedIn, I would say. I'm very active on LinkedIn because I'm in alpha stage again, researching a lot. And if I see any friend request coming up to me, the connection, I would accept it right away. And I will actually answer any message.
All right, so I will definitely put your LinkedIn in the show notes. And I want to thank you once again for being a guest on today's episode of the Founders Tables podcast. And for everyone listening, I just want y'all to remember this is not goodbye, but this is until next time. I'm your host, DeShaun Williams, and today we have Miss Robinson on the show. So remember, this is not goodbye. This is until next time, and I will see y'all next week.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the interview. I learned a lot from those questions as well. And I wish everyone good luck whenever you pursue journey to entrepreneurship. Thank you.
You're welcome.